Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Legal Angle with Emmanuel the Law Olawale. Today is the first year anniversary show, and I have with me a very special guest, someone who is an inspiration, someone who has been through it, survived it, got a t-shirt. His name is Valentino Dixon. He's an artist who spent 27 years in jail, in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Welcome to the show, Valentino.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah, I was reading about your story, and we were just talking about this uh, before we came on.
Right.
Your story is so compelling. These are the kind of stories that you see in a movie. How did it all started? What was your home life like growing up?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the inner city, the ghetto, you know, impoverished area, economic devastation, a lot of gang violence, drug selling, stuff like that. But wherever you grow up, you try to make the most of it. You make it work for you, and then you try to climb yourself out of that place. You know.
Hmm. Wow. So, growing up where you grew up, did you have a dream like, oh, this is what I want to be when I grow
I
up?
mean, well, I started drawing at the age of about 3 years old, and my grammar school art teacher really took to me, and she helped to develop, take my skill level to the next level, take my art to the next level. And she enrolled me at the Performing Arts High School in the seventh grade, and I went there all the way to senior year. And so art was the love of my life. This is what I love to do.
And yeah, when you were growing up, I think I read somewhere the way you used to hold your pencil used to,
It's
your
weird.
mom used to tell you not to do that.
It's weird. Can you see my hand?
Yes.
This is how I write.
Okay.
This is how I draw. And here's a drawing right here. One of the drawings I did.
That's awesome.
You know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It took a while for your mom to get used to
They used to hit
the
my
fact
hand.
that.
They used to hit my hand. And my mom and my grandmom used to discipline me. So they used to hit my hand with a ruler until my art teacher told them not to. She said I was an artist. Leave it alone. Leave me alone. I would be all right. And they listened to her.
So that was just something you were born with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a teenager, growing up where you grew up, at some point you desire to be able to buy fine things in life.
Yeah.
Then you took to the street. How
Oh
did
yeah.
that happen?
Well, when you grew up in a drug infested neighborhood, a lot of your friends start selling marijuana, cocaine, pills, stuff like that. And it becomes, so more normalized. This is the thing around us. And this is how a lot of people in the inner city survive. They survive off of the hustle. And if you're not careful, you'll get caught up into it, And I was a good student, and I decided I wanted to save some money up and invest my money, I used to paint signs, I used to cut grass. I used to sell jewelry that I bought from wholesale places. So I had a lot of, entrepreneur in me. And a lot of my friends were hustling. So I said, hey, take this $500 and invest it for me. And when you see a return like that, come back so quickly, you get hooked. And before you know it, you're in that life, and you're a part of something that you disapproved of at one point. I know I did, and so it became like a thing of, I'm going to just do this for now and save up some money and then buy some nice things along the way. But it never works out that way. It didn't work out that way for me, and it didn't work out that way for anybody that I knew. A lot of my friends started getting killed. They started going to prison. This is the result of making a bad choice. Then I get picked up for a homicide that I didn't commit. And
Yeah.
the rest
Even
is
before, even before they picked you up for that homicide,
Yeah,
you've been arrested, and I think you're on
yeah,
probation for something
yeah.
else.
Well, I was never on probation. I was out on bail. Okay, I was out on bail for two weapons possessions in the drug cell. They arrested me for selling $20 worth of cocaine, and so I was out on bail for these charges.
That's when this happened.
Yeah, that's when I was hanging out with some friends. It was about 90 people at a restaurant. Everybody's hanging out, and we were in the parking lot, and some guys pull up and started shooting, and shot one of my friends. Well, another friend of mine returned fire and shot the two guys that were shooting. So you had three people hit. I ran and jumped in my car and pulled away. And shortly thereafter, I was pulled over and taken into custody. They took my car and my clothes. So they said if I fired a weapon, they would know. And well, the problem is that the next day, 8 people came forth to let the authorities know that I didn't commit this crime. There were over 90 witnesses there. And they disregarded all the witnesses. And my friend turned himself in the following day. 2 days after I was arrested, he turned himself in and explained to authorities what happened. These guys were shooting. I returned fire. Valentino did not shoot anything. He didn't have anything to do with this. And they disregarded him and never arrested him. They told him to leave the police station. But the good thing about it is that they took a video confession of it. Okay, and eventually I got a hold of that video confession before trial. And because I didn't have enough money to pay for an attorney, I had to go with a public defender. So this public defender had in his possession 7 eyewitnesses' statements that cleared me and a confession. Although we should not be going to trial, we went to trial. There's no way that we should have went to trial. But we went to trial, and my attorney didn't call any of these witnesses and did not introduce the confession to the jury. The jury didn't even know someone else confessed. And then I didn't testify, even though I wanted to testify, and I made a fuss in the courtroom about these witnesses. The judge told me to sit down. And I accused them of railroading me, attempting to send me to prison for a crime I didn't commit. And my cries went, basically ignored.
No one listened to you because they've been targeting you even before that crime. I think
But
they've been pulling you over.
Yeah, pulling me over, stopping me a lot, harassing me, different things like that. Rightly so, though. Okay, because I was making bad choices. I had never been to prison now. I wasn't on probation, anything like that. So I didn't have a history of being a bad person or anything like that. No juvenile arrest, none of that type of stuff. But I had a couple flashy cars, and that just made it bad. It made it bad for me. And ultimately, it led to my, false arrest. And once they arrested me, they didn't want to hear anything. Even though these are educated people and the evidence was clear that I didn't commit this crime, they refused to, do the right thing and drop the charges.
And this was August of 1991.
August 10th, 1991, my mother's birthday. Wow. And the bad part about it is I'm the only child. Wow. So she didn't celebrate 27 birthdays when I was in prison.
Wow. When you were first arrested, did you think it was going to be over very soon?
Oh, of course. I mean, when you were out, imagine being out to dinner and at least 15 to 20 people know you, Emmanuel. They know who you are. And something happens, shooting, and the police arrest you. But you're around all of these people, and they're saying, like, how did they arrest Emmanuel? How did this happen? So all of these people go to the police station, and they tell them what happened, and the police pushes them away and says, so what? We made our arrest, and that's that.
Wow. Because even, like you said, one of your friends, Lamar Scott,
yeah,
came forward He told the police officers. They took his statements.
Yeah, they
He
took a video
spoke to
confession.
news, a video confession. He spoke
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
news anchor,
yes.
and still they didn't believe him.
Still didn't believe him, even though witnesses corroborated his confession. You know, even
What I,
though those two guys that pulled up and started shooting, they found their guns at the scene.
yeah. What I find interesting is that your trial counsel, he didn't make any opening statement.
He didn't make an
He
opening
did.
statement. Didn't make
He
an
didn't
opening statement.
call. He didn't call any
Not
witness.
one witness. Not
He
one
didn't
witness.
introduce Scott's confession, even though let's assume that he wasn't able to get the one that the police had. There was a news report about his confession. He didn't do that.
He had it in his possession. He had the confession. He had the witness statements. You know, one of the surviving victims cleared me from his hospital bed, and he was critically wounded. He was charged with perjury without even testifying. No evidence of perjury. He was just charged with perjury because he told them from his hospital bed that I didn't shoot him. The DA charged him with perjury and couldn't explain
Yeah.
why. You know,
There were two witnesses that were like that, isn't it?
Yes, two witnesses. Yep.
And they charged them with perjury. The reason they charged them with perjury was to prevent them from testifying.
Right. It was tactical. You know, it was tactical. It's never been done before, but there's a first for everything. And this prosecutor, you know, he took total advantage of his, you know, authority. You know, a prosecutor has a duty and obligation to seek the truth, not just a conviction. He did the opposite. So what they did was, you know, violated my most basic fundamental constitutional rights for a fair trial. When you didn't call the witnesses, my lawyer didn't call the witnesses. He actually, what's the word I'm looking for? He assisted the prosecution. You know, how do you not call these witnesses? And the crazy part about it is, even though he didn't give an opening statement, during jury selection, he told prospective jurors that he would call witnesses that would clear me of this crime. So this is on the record. Then, when he did not call the witnesses, and I, you know, complained, the jury was excused. And the judge, it was just me, the judge, and the prosecutor. And my lawyer said, "Hey, Your Honor, I told the jurors during jury selection I would call witnesses, but I'm not calling any. What should I say to them?" This is on the record now. The judge says, "I don't know what you should do. That's not my responsibility." And the same judge told me that I got a fair trial.
And you were 21.
21 years old.
Wow. And you were 22 when they convict you.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You were still a boy. How did you grow into being a man behind bars?
I had no choice. All right. When I got to Attica, which is one of the worst prisons that in New York State, hands down, the abuse, the racism within inside the prison, just the healthcare, you know, the overall treatment is horrific, put it that way. Okay. And it has a history of violence. I mean, it's the home to the worst riot in American history. 43 people died. Okay. And there's been other riots since then inside that prison. But here I'm stuck there. I'm right in the middle of this place, you know. And I know that God was with me, even though I didn't have a strong faith. Of course, I didn't know anything about God at 21. But he was there protecting me. And so I realized at some point, you ever see the movie The Shawshank Redemption?
Yes.
Okay. So Andy, the main character, he told himself he had two choices. Get busy living or get busy dying. So it took me about 7 years to get my head right, to, you know, and it was my uncle that, because I hadn't drawn, I had painted, I had to do no artwork now, the first 7 years, no artwork. And my uncle said, "Hey, you may have to draw yourself out of prison." All my appeals was denied. I said, "What do you mean, Uncle?" He says, "Well, if you can reclaim your talent, you can reclaim your life." So
told you that.
yes, he sent me some colored pencils and some paper. And I'm gonna show you some of the drawings that I did in prison. I got them surrounded here. I'm in my studio in my mother's house.
Wow.
These are pencil drawings.
Oh, pencil.
All colored pencils. These pencils right here. These are pencils that I had in prison. I brought them home with me.
Wow.
You know, and then of course, well, we'll get to that in a little while. The golf art. You know, but I eventually started drawing up to 10 hours a day.
10 hours?
Up to 10 hours a day, every day, 365 days a year. And I was pushing myself constantly to the point that I started going even bigger. Behind me is a drawing that I did in prison right here. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, this is a golf course in Dubai. This is a hotel connected to the golf course. But I've done stuff 4 times this size. All pencil, all color pencil. A lot of people think, oh, he's a great painter, you know. They think I'm a painter, you know, but it's all color pencil. Yeah. Let me show you some more. Like stuff like this, abstract pieces. You know.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Or I can turn around and go Afrocentric.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
So what I wanted to do was not limit myself to the subject matter that I chose to draw. And I really had to develop my style on my own because I didn't have a teacher inside, you know. And I had to learn through trial and error. So if you sit for 10 hours a day, you're going to develop a certain style and techniques that's going to show you, hey, you know, this is the best way to do a flower or an eyeball, you know. And you pick up things as you go along. Let me show you some more. Here's another Indian.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Wow.
You know, and so the more time I got invested in the artwork, I just started to believe, you know what, this is going to happen. And I became known as the artist in Attica. Everybody would like come by and check out my artwork, from the inmates to the guards to the warden. You know, and I also did a lot of reading now. I read about 4 hours a day. So my days, I didn't have, and then I worked out for an hour. So I didn't have time for anything else. And I did this same routine every day for the last 20 years.
Wow, you were just building yourself.
Yeah, that's it. You know, and I read about 700 books, and I completed about 900 pieces of artwork. Okay. And I just told myself, this suffering that you're going through is part of the challenge. It's going to be part of your legacy, you know. And you have people that were born into slavery. Imagine being born into slavery and die a slave. Your whole life, you were a slave. You know, and the mind can achieve anything if it builds itself up to a particular level. Okay. And I watched Michael Jordan become the greatest basketball player of all time, you know, and I watched Tom Brady win how many championships when I was inside of prison. He just won another one, you know. And I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I didn't like Tom Brady. But what I seen something special in these people. I seen their willpower, their will to win a championship and to make those around them better. Okay, so what I would do was, because I did all of this reading and the guys around me hadn't read as much as I did, you know. So whenever a particular issue came up, life issue, I usually 99% of the time could provide a solution. Even with the guards would come to me for advice, and we would conversate about family life and different things like that. and I just try to educate myself on everything from A to Z. Okay. Because whenever that day come and I'm released from prison, I have big plans.
You got big plans. You became the
I have big
resident
plans.
counselor.
Yes. And I want to be able to sit in front of anybody and not only have an intelligent conversation, but offer a solution if they need it, And then I'm a good student also. I like to learn from people, So I like to take everything that I can take and then stir it in the pot,
Yes.
And yes. And so I learned how to cook really good in prison. Like you have some really good chefs in there, So I learned from the African guy, the Spanish guy, the Italian guy, the Greek guy. I learned how to prepare all of these dishes and then make my own. But that's just one aspect of. And then I study business. Like, I want to run 5 or 6 businesses, and this is what it's going to take. So you have to learn this. You have to be good with numbers. You have to have a marketing strategy. You have to be able to create a great product. All of these different things, So I use that time as a university. Like I'm in this university right now, and I got a PhD in about 5 different things. You know what I'm saying? And
wow.
So that's how my mind state was. This is how it operated. I knew about iPhones and computers, even though we never had any in prison. I never worked a computer. So I would get the computer books, and read about how to design a website. What is a USB? What is a hard drive? How do I draw traffic to my site? And I never had operated a website, but I'm in my prison cell, designing websites.
You were well read.
Yes. And why do I want the iPhone and not the Android, et cetera, these type of things. And because I know that people in society are moving so fast, they don't really have time to really educate themselves on a whole lot of things. People, they choose a career or they go into a job field, and I'm doing this for 8 hours and I'm coming home and going to sleep. Pretty much. You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
how will I not only make my mark on the world, but live the most fulfilling life possible? And this is what I asked myself over and over and over. I had never ate lobster before, So I started taking myself outside the prison. I'm going to eat lobster tomorrow while I draw, and I'm going to take myself to France. And I'm going to be in this world because I'm not going to be in this prison setting tomorrow. My mind is going to be somewhere else. And then I'm going to count my blessings, because you know what I'm witnessing in the world? I'm witnessing a 10-year-old kid dying of cancer, a family losing their life in a house fire. So guess what? You need to count your blessings. You're in a 6x8 prison cell, but you're drawing pictures like this, and you don't have any health problems. And by the way, this is the picture that Michelle Obama bought for Barack. This is a copy of it.
Wow. It's very beautiful.
Thanks.
Yes.
So, and that's what I did, Emmanuel, to keep myself strong. To challenge myself when I were having bad days, because I had friends that committed suicide in prison. I couldn't save them. As much as motivating that I did every day, I motivated people every day. When they were down, I lifted them up. I gave them every ounce of fiber that I had inside of me. Any given day, I'm motivating 10 to 20 people. But I couldn't save everybody. But I tried to save as many as I could and get them on the right path. The path of being an asset to the community and to society when you're released, and not a burden. You know what I'm saying? If it makes any sense. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Okay. It makes sense.
And because a lot of times the criminal mentality is deep rooted into people. It could come from their parents, or just neighborhood. These type of things. So you have to, convince a person to change the way they think first before they could make change.
Exactly. And 2 years after you got in, Lamar, which is the guy that actually
Yeah,
shot
right.
the guy, the teenager that died that you were
Yeah,
convicted of,
yeah,
he was also brought into the same prison as you.
yeah. He shot and robbed another guy. The guy eventually died,
Yes.
and they gave him 28 to 50 years.
Yes. How were
Okay.
you able to be in the same environment as
Well,
the guy
when I
that did
see
the
when I
crime
saw,
you were serving time for?
not only that, they put him in the same housing area as me. So right then and there, I said, you know what? This is a setup. How is it possible for him to be in the same housing area as me and authorities know he's tied to my case like this? Okay. And so I quickly realized, you know what? You got to make this work. I was angry at this guy. I said, you got to make this work because they want you to, you know, destroy, self-destruct or destroy yourself. You can't allow that. You can't allow that to happen. This guy isn't the problem. The authorities is the problem. Okay. And I had to come to that conclusion. And we got along for 10 years. He stayed there for 10 years.
Wow. Did you confront him at any point in
Oh yeah,
time?
he approached me. I didn't want to
You
have
talked
nothing.
about the case?
Yeah, he told me. He says, hey, I tried to do the right thing. The prosecutors, made me recant my confession. He said, I'm sorry. He said, if you ever need my help, just send a lawyer to see me and I'll give a statement. He had already gave a confession though. He said, if you ever go to court, you just have your lawyer call me.
Wow.
So here come the warden one day. I have 20 years in Attica. He knows me very well. Okay. And he says, Valentino, could you draw my favorite golf hole? I said, warden, you know damn well I don't know how to draw. This is how we talk. You know damn well I don't know how to draw no golf course. And we start laughing. We both laughed about it. I said, I never golfed before. I'm from the black kid from the inner city. Like, come on. I said, bring the picture in. And I hope my fellow inmates don't turn on me because I'm drawing a golf course in prison. Because prison is a funny place now. And it's a dangerous place. I mean, I had a guy attack me with a razor for nothing. So you got to be careful. You want to be able to, you got to have credibility and you need to be able to protect yourself. You can't, do certain things. You know what I mean? So he bring the picture in of the 12th hole of Augusta.
This was in 2009, I believe.
2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010. And I drew the golf course for him. And as I was drawing, the inmates that knew me was saying, like, what is this? You're drawing this golf course? And he's like, oh, that's cool. Like, wow, that's really cool. And it was a cool golf course. The 12th hole of Augusta is this right here. And it has the bridge, the two bridges. It has flowers down here, some nice pretty trees up in there. So it was an interesting golf course. And I didn't know it was the most iconic hole in America, in American golf, the 12th hole of Augusta. And one of them. And so I drew it for him. He loved it. It was over with. And so my neighbor, a guy named Adam Roberts, he says, Valentino, you just draw more golf holes. Like, draw some more golf holes. I said, Adam, what are you talking about? He said, I think you could do a nice collection of golf holes. So I'm gonna get you some Golf Digest magazines. 4 days later, he tossed them on my bed. In prison, people can be very resourceful. There was a guy upstairs from us that got a Golf Digest magazine every month. He had a whole bunch of old issues. Sit them downstairs, and let me grab some of the golf drawings, the first ones that I did. Hold on. So these are the originals now. These are on like 7x9, 8x12 paper. That's a golfer. So I just started drawing these every day. Like I think it took me about maybe about 14 hours to do one drawing, one of these small. They're small, 7x9. And I just kept adding to the collection every day, nonstop. Every other day I was trying to push out a new one. Until I had about 60 of them. Wow. And I reached out to the Golf Digest magazine. And I explained to them what happened to me. And of course they had to fact check to make sure that I wasn't making up something. And I sent my trial transcripts to the Max Adler of the Golf Digest magazine. He read the trial transcripts and he could not believe what he read. I mean, it was clear that I didn't commit this crime. And so he decided, and he couldn't believe the drawing, by the way. I sent him one of these drawings and he just couldn't believe it. And he decided in July 2012 to publish my story. And it was a 3-page article, which led to the Golf Channel coming and interviewing me in Attica. And also Lamore Scott, the guy responsible for the crime, he volunteered to do an interview. So you guys, anybody that's watching, go online and pull this stuff up. And it didn't get me out of prison. But what happened was this. During the interview, the prosecutor who tried this case agreed to do an interview. And during the interview, he was asked, with all this evidence, you sure you got the right person in prison? So finally, this guy says, I'm only human. I could have made a mistake. But his boss would not overturn the conviction. So I had to keep drawing every day. And I eventually got Georgetown University's attention.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Yes. At some point, when you started making all these drawings,
yeah.
At some point you started creating your own golf courses.
Oh, yeah.
How were you able to do that for someone who's never been on the course before?
Well, the thing is this. I'm sitting and drawing golf courses every single day. And I amassed about 70 of them. So now I don't even need no reference points. I don't need to look at no magazines. I can just create them off the top of my head and decide how I want that particular course to be. Whether it's trees, mountains, water, on, as a part of the drawing, what particular sand trap, how far I want the fairway to be. The list goes on and on. I don't have to have a picture. I can just do it off the top of my head.
Wow, that was quite impressive.
Thank
you.
You
said, some days after I completed drawing, I felt like I had just completed 18 holes. How were you able to equate the satisfaction of playing golf to that of drawing the golf course?
Well, because it was peaceful for me. Okay. And it's peaceful for a golfer, I'm certain. When you spend thousands of hours on doing something, not hundreds of hours, thousands of hours doing something, then you become one with that thing that you're focusing on. You become one with it, and I became one with the golf courses because of all of the time that I put into drawing. And these are just the smaller ones. I mean, I really go big. Let me show you something. I mean, this is a 20 by 30. And this is Hirono Golf Course, the 5th hole in Japan.
Beautiful.
All color pencil. And I layer so many colors on top of each other to give it a paint look, to make it come to life. And I want to put every tree in there, every little branch. When people look at it, they say, no way that's a golf drawing. No way that's a drawing, period. This guy's painting.
It looks like a painting. Yes.
Yeah. And that's the goal. In fact, once I accomplished that, then that's the fulfillment there. The guards used to say, hey, and I did this in Attica. The The
Wow.
guards used to say, "Hey, Valentino, if we didn't see you drawing this every day, there's no way we would believe it."
It seems your soul was reaching out to the vastness of the green, the freedom.
Oh
So
yeah,
your soul, your body was inside prison, but your soul just wanted that freedom
yes,
because
and
there is no wider space than a golf course. Rich, green, beautiful.
you know it.
Wow. So when you are out there, even though your body was inside, your soul was outside. You were free, but not physically free.
Yeah. Well, look at Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison. You know, he had no reason to be in prison. What did he do wrong? You know, and but he had to keep his mind strong. You know, not just for himself, but for the people. And I had to keep my mind strong for my family. You know, people
Yeah.
that were supporting me. You know, a lot of times they felt like giving up, and I wouldn't allow them to.
Yeah. And with the Gulf Digest, after they took on your situation, they took on your case, they did all the interview, it created all this movement and got the attention of other people. How did the Innocence Project get involved in your case?
Well, it was an Innocence Project. During my time in prison, I had 9 lawyers over a 27-year span. Okay. And after the Gulf Digest came out, I asked Max Adler for 50 copies of the Gulf Digest magazine. He said, "What do you want 50 copies for?" I said, "I need to send one copy and one letter to as many great lawyers in America as possible." And I had a list of these lawyers that I had read about. And I need to explain to them what happened to me. And I'm also going to send copies of this magazine out to more media outlets. So I had a strategy on how I was going to win my freedom. Okay. And I knew that when you have a lot of evidence, the courts are very reluctant to do the right thing because it becomes political. Okay. And this is why you hear about guys or women being released after 10, 20, 30 years. Why does it take so long? You know, it takes so long because those in authoritative positions, from the lower courts to the higher courts, are protecting each other. They're sweeping the issues under the rug. Okay. And so I knew that my only chance would be publicity. To gather enough publicity that they would have to say, "You know what? We're tired of this case coming up." You know, I got the attention of the Buffalo News, my city newspaper. After 13 years, they finally said, "You know, we need to write about this." And they wrote a total of 9 articles. So now those local judges, law enforcement, they were fully aware that the facts of the case were out. You know, I took 2 polygraph tests and passed them. Okay. And this is what it takes. You push and you push and you push until those in position do the right thing. You know? And so I sent a Golf Digest magazine to a particular lawyer in New York City, and big lawyer. He represents celebrity people. He said, "Oh, wow, I like this case. I want to help." So he takes the case, but then he sits on the case. But I had been used to this. I had been used to lawyers sitting on my case for years and never following any paperwork, never following anything, just taking my case and not doing anything, you know. And we're making 1,000 calls to their office to no avail. With this particular lawyer out of New York City, he wasn't doing anything, but he had a paralegal that I would talk to every day or almost once a week on the phone. Okay, we developed a friendship, me and this guy. His name is Marty Tancliffe. And Marty says, "Hey, one day I'm going to be a lawyer and I won't forget you if you don't get out." Okay. So one day I called there. Marty was no longer there. He was gone. They said he went off to law school and he was gone. So I didn't hear from Marty. A couple years later, I get a letter in the mail. Nope, I take that back. My mother get a phone call from Marty. And she says, Miss Dixon, I'm at Georgetown teaching a law class with students. And the students are interested in taking on Valentino's case as a class project. And that was good news. I still had to hire an attorney, but the great news was I had these law students, these undergrads, that I would be on the phone with almost every day, and we were dissecting my case like a science project. Okay. And then these students decided that they wanted to do a documentary. And I came up with the idea for them to go back and interview the prosecutor on the case. Okay. I said, I want you guys to ask them these questions here, 1 through 10. Okay. And they asked them about my clothing and my cars, 2 cars that I had in clothing that they confiscated, you know. And they wanted to know, why didn't he turn over the results to the findings? Did Valentino fire a weapon? And he says, everything came back negative. Oh, everything came back negative, huh?
That was a linchpin.
Yes. So the students didn't quite understand what happened, because we were going to get everything tested if they hadn't tested it. But I knew they tested everything. They just never turned over the results. So when he said everything came back negative, I told the students, I said, you guys know what that means?
That's a Brady violation.
You know it. And they didn't quite understand that it was a Brady violation. They just thought that he admitted to, you know, everything coming back negative. But what they didn't realize was that if it came back negative, where's the findings? Where's the report? You didn't hand that over. All right. That's a Brady violation.
Yes.
So it wasn't the 8 witnesses in the confession. It was that one
Brady
single
violation.
piece of that violation. Now you get to bring in the 8 witnesses in the confession to add
Just
to
to
that.
corroborate.
There
Yes.
you go.
Wow.
And ultimately, that's what got me out of prison.
Wow. Thank God. And after the judge set you free, you said to reporters, there is not a trace of bitterness inside me, because if I'd harbored any, I never would have made it. If the people who put me away were standing here, I'd hug them. How did
Yes.
you get to the point of forgiveness so quickly?
I forgave them while I was inside. You know why?
Why?
This is why. God was moving me in that prison cell. He was moving my fingers. I look at some of this artwork and I say, how the hell did you put this together? Okay, so I'm a miracle. And because of that, I know that that was my purpose. Okay, and to be an example for the world, that no matter what comes your way, what challenges you face, if you stay strong and hang in there, you're going to overcome whatever's thrown your way.
Wow.
And I'm an example at 27 years, that there is a God, but you have to start, you have to have a strong faith, and you got to hang in there.
Did you feel like you lost 27 years?
No, not at all. Because it's not, how long you live, is what you do with the small, whatever time you have.
It's not
It's
the
how you
quantity.
live. It's
It's
how
the
you live.
quality.
It's how you live.
It's how you live.
I've walked out of prison. I've been out 2 years and 3 months. 2 years, 4 months. Since I've been out, I've been to the Masters. I've told Tiger Woods he was going to win the Masters. I looked him in the face. I said, Tiger, you're going to win the Masters. He said, I'm going to try my best. I said, no, you're going to win. And Tiger won. I met Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer of all time. He says, you remind me of Nelson Mandela because of your spirit. Now, I'm part of designing a golf course in Buffalo and a learning center because of Jack Nicklaus. I started my own show, Draw and Talk with Me. I have 35 shows. I have my own camera system, my own cameraman, video guy, and I got 4 Hall of Fame athletes on my show. Imagine this: baseball, golf, football, and a black cowboy. I teach people how to draw, and then we talk about real life issues. You know, you can't. And I've been to the Emmys. I've been nominated for 2 Emmy Awards. Okay, I just completed my book, The Soul of an Unfreed Man, and I just got a top agent in the country to represent me on this book. I'm talking to a couple people about a movie. Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors reached out to me to do my documentary. I've been to the NBA and talked to the rookies. You know, I'm traveling all over the world speaking to people before the COVID and inspiring the kids, you know, about life choices and stuff like that.
Wow. All that would have been impossible but for the 27 years.
I've been in the Golf Digest 3 times. No, 5 times. I've been given a gold medal by the Vatican Church in Rome. You know, I got the Discovery Channel coming to Buffalo next week to film. And then I got one of the biggest retailers reach out to me, and I got a meeting with on the 17th of this month about my golf apparel line. I designed some golf shoes and some shirts.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Your mom, because all this started on her birthday. For 27 years, you didn't celebrate her birthday until you got out.
Right. So
what was that like for you?
For me,
knowing that your mom was going through hell.
Extremely painful because I'm the only child, and she got cancer 3 times when I was in prison. And I'm talking about lung cancer, ovarian cancer, leukemia. And she's still standing strong right now. You gotta count the blessings. I don't have time to be bitter at Matt. I don't have time to be bitter at nobody.
Okay. When you went into, you had a 6-month-old daughter.
Yes. She
Valentina.
She graduated from college.
How was it?
She graduated from college. She's a 2nd grade school teacher.
How did you handle the emotion of not seeing her grow? Locked up.
I wrote her hundreds of letters. I spoke to her on the phone. She came to visit me. Me and her mom wasn't together, but family members and her mom made sure that they brought her up to see me. My other fellow inmates didn't have this. They didn't have the support.
No. You also got married in jail, in prison.
Yes. Twice. Twice.
You were blessed.
Truly. And so we can't look at the bad that happens to us. We have to look at the good. We have to be grateful and never ungrateful. That's the key.
You have to be grateful and never ungrateful.
If you don't look at the good, if you just look at the bad, your soul is not going to be a peaceful soul. It's easy to blame the world when things happen to you, you know. But what about the lesson in it? What about the lesson? What about that you're still here and you're still breathing? That you can go have a hamburger or a slice of pizza? That you can go walk in the park and it doesn't cost any money? Now I can go fishing. I went fishing 3 times last summer. I'm taking care of my 92-year-old grandmother. I live with her. I'm there with her every day. You know, I help her to the bathroom. These are precious moments that, you know, this is what life is about.
Yeah. You can put a dollar figure
Yeah.
on those things.
There
And
you go.
last year, a former First Lady, Michelle Obama, bought one of your artwork and gave it to President Obama for Christmas. What was that like? And let us see that drawing. And
This is the drawing right here. And by the way, I have these available on my website at valentinodixon.com. Limited edition. Well, when she reached out, my assistant that runs my website says, hey, Michelle Obama just reached out to purchase that commission you to draw a picture for Barack for Christmas. I says, no way. She says, no, this is real. And she left a telephone number for you to call her assistant. And I says, wow. I was at the bank at the time. I made the phone call inside the bank. And the assistant said, hey, she won a golf course, man. And, you know, we want to know if you have any ideas of, you know, can you show us some pictures? And this one here, I knew right then and there, Barack has to have this. And, I mean, she paid for it, but I would have gave it to her for free. Yeah.
your life has really come full circle, you know, from just like you said, your story, just like Nelson Mandela. You spent 27 years in jail, but instead of being bitter, you seem to be grateful for the time because it gives you a chance to find yourself.
Of course. I mean, so tomorrow, not everyone is going to wake up. You know, the people is here today, someone's not going to be here tomorrow. You have to be grateful.
Yeah. Even while you are in there, you are different from other inmates because you are able to use your work, you are able to sell greeting cards, make money as
Yeah.
compared to other inmates who are
Oh, yeah.
getting paid 40 cents an hour.
Yeah.
What
Well,
was that like?
let me say this. My second wife, Louise, is from Australia. Okay. She's a very smart woman. I said, hey, babe, we're going to start our own greeting card company. She said, all right, mate, let's do it. You know.
Mate.
Yeah, mate, yeah. Louise distributed hundreds of thousands of greeting cards. I mean, we had stuff manufactured in China, Canada. She had 200 stores all on her own. And I wrote all the poems in the cards, and I drew about 600 greeting cards when I was in prison. Let me show you some of them. Hold on. This is just a couple. And so we would have the words put on them, and this is the original card that I drew, and we have the words put on them on the inside and then manufactured.
You were busy.
I was busy. I mean, I stayed busy. I just knew that I could not allow myself to be given a 40-year sentence and die in prison. That was not going to be my legacy. Okay. Let me just say this. There was a possibility that I was never going to get out of prison. But I told myself, even if I never get out of prison, the world is going to know about me because I have this artwork. And I was sending about 10 pieces of home every couple weeks. So I said, if I don't leave anything else on this planet but this artwork, the world is going to learn about me one day.
And now the world has known about you. I was gonna ask you that. Did you ever think you were gonna get out?
Oh, of course. I was 99% sure I was going to get out. I was 1% certain that I was going to have to do all the time.
It's just
Okay?
life.
Yes. So I said, you have 27 years then. You have 13 more years to go before the parole board. You can make that. I have friends that have 45 years in on a 20-year sentence because the New York State Parole Board refused to release them after they've done the 20 years. You know, and you know what? My buddy has 46 years there, and I'm no different than him. I may have to do another 20.
Let me ask you this.
This is why I fight so hard against the sentencing laws, the guidelines in this country, because they violate the 8th Amendment to the Constitution against cruel and unusual punishment. You know, you're giving people double amount of time that they should be given for that offense. You know, this is why we have mass incarceration. This is why we have over 2.3 million people in prison. And I'm not saying people shouldn't be punished. People should be punished now with certain offenses. They should go to prison. But you're giving them excessive amounts of time. Too much time. Then look at my situation. I'm innocent. And you give me 40 years.
Yeah. I think this is one of the reasons why we need prison reform.
Yes.
While you were growing up there, sometimes, you go to bed, everyone dreams. What was your dream like? Were you dreaming of when you were outside, or was your dream about the nightmare of prison?
I didn't have many nightmares. I think I may have 3 nightmares in 27 years. Okay. But I would like to say that I didn't dream at night. I dreamed during the day.
And your dream got you out.
Yeah, I didn't dream at night. I dreamed during the day. I dreamed all day long. If I'm walking in the prison yard or in the corridor, and I'm in my cell drawing, I'm dreaming. I didn't wait till I go to sleep.
What will you tell that young man or that young woman right now who are currently in the shoes you were at 21, 22, 23? What will you tell them?
If if you're living a life of crime, if you're doing anything wrong, you better let it go right now, because you can't win. You're going to lose everything. It's going to cost you your life or cost you your freedom. So let it go. There is no shortcut to success. Take your butt to school, go to college, get a degree, start a business, leave the criminal activity alone, because you have options. A lot of times we don't believe we have options. We believe this is the only way I can make it here is this way. But you can make it with hard work. This is why, for me, the work has just begun.
Thank you. And if people want to reach out to you, get your work, buy some of your artwork, your books, or,
Right
watch
on the
any of
screen,
your shows.
ValentinoDixon.com. My book won't be out for another 4 or 5 months.
Okay. So
But
go
you
to
can buy artwork, original
ValentinoDixon.com.
artwork. Yeah, original artwork or prints. Anything you want, you see here, it should be up on my website.
Thank you, Valentino, for coming on to Legal Angle. If we keep going, we can go for 2 hours.
Oh, definitely.
I think I'm going to
Thanks
bring
for
you
having
back.
me.
I'm going to bring you back on the show. You've been such a wonderful guest. Thank you again for making it onto Legal Angle with Emmanuel.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Hope to see you next time.
Definitely.
And for those of you watching at home or listening to us on the podcast, thank you for joining us. Until next time, stay safe.